Good evening and welcome to The Author's Corner with your host, author Kimberly McLemore, as she welcomes her guests into the studio to discuss excerpts of their book.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Author's Corner. I am your host, author Kimberly McLemore, and thank you for tuning in to tonight's show. Tonight I have two amazing guests in store for you. Let me take a couple of minutes, though, and tell you just a little bit more about myself and the purpose of the show. I am the author of How to Be a Success by Just Being You, Are You Living or Existing? The Pros and Cons of Balancing Life, and the 2019 Isla Award Author of the Year for Social Awareness for my book, the memoir, Deception of the Heart, A Real Look into Domestic Violence. I am also the CEO of the Women's Small Business Initiative, LLC, the host of the podcast, Your Resource for Success, also here on iHeartRadio, and I am the founder of Author Kimberly M. McLemore, LLC. The purpose of this platform is to provide new and existing authors an opportunity to tell us their story, promote their books, talk about their events and or speaking engagements. But let me introduce you my very first special guest. His name is Eric M. Twiggs. He is the author of The Discipline of Now, 12 Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination. He is also the host of a weekly inspirational podcast titled The 30-Minute Hour. As a certified life and business coach, Eric has conducted over 28,000 coaching sessions, helping executive leaders and entrepreneurs who have moved from feeling frustrated to finding fulfillment. He has also led organizations of 500 or more people in corporate America and shared his message with corporations, associations, and congregations across the country. By reading The Discipline of Now, you will receive a proven blueprint to beat procrastination so that you make more money, get more done, and become aligned with your divine purpose. So, without further ado, help me welcome to my platform my special guest author, Mr. Eric M. Twiggs. Hey, Eric, how are you?
Hey, Kimberly. It is an honor to be on your show.
Well, I'm excited, and you know your crew's going to be a little jealous, but one of them shouldn't be. That's
right. Mr. Fell should not be jealous.
That's right. He was on the show, so we had a great time, but tonight it's all about you, so I'm excited. You know, we have had many opportunities to be around each other in the same room, talking about other people's books and introducing them. So now it's your time to shine. And I've also been a guest on the 30-Minute Hour, which was amazing and fun. So I'm definitely looking forward to this.
Yes, I am as well.
All right. So let's get this thing rocking. So the one question I want to just find out real quickly is, how have you been? Tell the listeners just a little bit more about who Eric M. Twiggs is.
Yeah, so I'm Eric Twiggs. I am your procrastination prevention partner, and I specialize in helping people to overcome procrastination and getting to the goals that they've set for themselves, and really becoming aware of what procrastination costs and what causes procrastination, and ultimately arriving at the cure.
All right. Yes. So we got a lot to talk about. You know, the procrastination piece is always an interesting topic, but with all the things that are going on, we're going to dive into some of those things about what's going on in our community and how you can talk about those 12 steps to help those people out of procrastination.
Yes.
So, but before we jump into that question, tell me a little bit of how you got inspired to do what you are currently doing.
Well, it started back when I was in college, and I talk about this I talk about this in the book. I'm in college, and it's my senior year, and I'm talking to a friend of mine. His name is Donnell, and Donnell and I have to confess, we were a little different at the time. You know, he was about his purpose, and I was about the party. And we're having this conversation, and I'm trying to get him to go to this party, and he's like, Eric, man, you need to get serious. And I'm saying, hey, we've got plenty of time, Donnell. We're young. You know, let's just live life and party and have a good time. You come to this party with me or not. And so several weeks go by, and I hadn't talked to Donnell. And then I was informed by his mother that he was tragically killed in a car accident.
Wow.
And it really made me think about time, and it made me realize that maybe we don't have as much time as we think to do what we want to do and leave the legacy that we want to leave.
Exactly. And being that you're sharing this story, it is so prevalent for today. Extremely prevalent.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
And scary at the same time. And, you know, you being younger than, and like you said, most young people still have the attitude of believing that they're going to live forever and that, you know, they have nothing to worry about. And as you said, here you had, you know, you were that person and then your friend was just the opposite. And I guess it also just goes down to show that we don't have control when we believe that we do. But at the same token, it definitely woke you up in a way that you probably never thought it would. So with that experience, how are you today working around thinking about what you've gone through and currently looking at what some of these young kids are doing today?
Well, so I speak with people at the students at the elementary school level, high school level, and the college level, and really try to impart some of the time management messages that I didn't hear when I was that age. And when we look at time management, it boils down to what I was just saying about my experience with Donnell. We think we have more time than we really do. That's the fundamental issue when it comes to time management. I mean, for example, let's say your office is 20 minutes away from you. You think you have 20 minutes to get there, but you don't factor in that there may be traffic. It could be raining. There's a lot of factors, but we think we have more time, and that's the fundamental thing. It's like we underestimate how long things really take. So I help people to really plan out better and ultimately stop procrastinating and make the most of their time.
Right. Exactly. And procrastination is something that we all have a tendency of doing, but there are some people who have the tendency to just never get over that hump, right? And because of it, you know, and because of that, it's you know, they may have some good reasons, but at the same token, when you look up and you're constantly saying month after month or day after day or year after year, the same thing, I don't know if that even really is about procrastinating anymore. You know, is it really the fact that you want to do it? You know, do you want to really move forward? Do you realize that time is of essence? And, you know, we think about 24 hours as being, oh, that's a lot, a lot of time. It's, you know, we got a lot we can do in a day. And then you will look up, your day goes by so fast that you realize, you know what, I didn't get this done within the 24-hour period. So talk a little bit about some of those 12 practical principles. You can share, you know, as many as you'd like, and then we can kind of walk through some of those and talk about how those principles are very, you know, are something that people need to utilize. And of course, with today being that we are sitting at home, most of us are working from home now. We're teleworking with the way that the world is today. I think these principles would be very practical for today and help people get past that procrastination part that they're dealing with even right now.
Yeah, so if I were to talk about some of the principles in the book, the one that really stands out to me, because this has been a battle for me, is this idea of perfectionism. We have to overcome perfectionism, because perfectionism is what leads to procrastination, because we feel like I can't launch it, I can't start, I can't move forward until I see all green lights and I've got all the information. And Kimberly, you know how many people I talk to that they're always doing research.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, how you coming with the book? Oh, I'm doing research, Eric. Get off my back. But at some point, you know, you have to move forward. And here's something that I always tell people is that you can't allow perfect to become the enemy of progress.
Exactly. And I like that because, you know, when you talk about that, how can you be perfect at doing something that you're just starting?
I mean, excellent. That you make a great point. You're not going to be perfect. There's never going to be a time where you're going to have all the information. And sometimes you just have to take a step of faith. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to take a step in the direction of your dream, of your goal, and trust that the next steps will be revealed.
Exactly. And as we always talk about, just even in basic business, it's one thing to constantly plan, but it means nothing if you don't execute. And essentially, that's what you're saying. You can sit there and research all day. But at the end of the day, you're not going to know everything. But if you don't just get out there and try, then you'll constantly be thinking in the background, oh, I wish I had of. And there's a lot of I wish. So,
right.
to leave your dream sitting on the table because you don't think you have enough, then you may not be ready. And that sometimes that's how you also have to look at it. If you're not ready to take that leap of faith, then you may not be ready at all to step out there and do business, because if you're that uncomfortable with yourself, my concern would be, how can you teach somebody else something?
Oh, for sure. And then, so, we talk about this thing about perfectionism, and this is the author's corner. And as an author, one of the things I wrestled with was this idea of trying to write and edit at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it had to be perfect. So I would spend so much time, my book could have been done a lot faster if I would just, when I started, if I had the mindset of just, okay, I'm just going to write and get my ideas down on paper, and whatever comes to mind, I'm just going to put it on paper, no matter how crazy it sounds coming out of my head, and then I'm going to go back and edit.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But then also it comes to a point too where it's okay just to write. But what a lot of people won't do is they don't, and not that they won't, but they may not even understand what is the process. How do I go from point A, B, C to D, and even when people think they have it perfect, it still needs to be edited, right? It still needs to be proofread. And that's when it gets to the point where you have to say, you know what, I've got to stay in my lane. And my lane is the author of the book. I've wrote the book. Now I have to find that new lane that that's not where my expertise is. And that's, am I editing it properly? Am I laying the book out in the proper format? Am I doing all these different things to make this book, acceptable? And of course that where it can be published, whether you're self-publishing or whether you're using traditional publishing. So you definitely hit, a target there. That's the problem. It all goes back to trying to be perfect. And then when you're trying to be perfect, then that's when you go back to be procrastinating. Then something that, because you don't know, and it's okay that you don't know, but that's when you have to know when to say, you know what, I got to take this out of my hands. Yes,
absolutely. So yeah, the key is just moving forward and then realizing that the small steps count.
Yes.
So if you just, calling someone, getting more information is a small step. Going to Google is a small step. These little things we do on the journey do count, and we have to be moving forward.
Absolutely. So the thing that I wanted to point out, and it really amazed me when I was reviewing your information again, that you've conducted over 28,000 coaching sessions. How in the world have you survived 28,000 coaching sessions is what I want to know.
Well, just years and years of, 10 or more sessions a day. But that's been such a valuable experience, because I see what's different between people that get good results and people that get great results, right? So, you can have these two people, and a lot of times they know a lot of the same things, which is interesting. Their know-how level is similar, but what I found just in dealing with all these people is that the difference between the good and the great is that the great, they just have this uncanny ability to get themselves to do what they need to do, whether they feel like it or not.
Wow.
Like, for example, the great person, they go to the conference, and let's say the conference is over that Sunday, that Monday they're in action. They get the good idea. The person that's good, they went to the same conference, but they never seem to get around to implementation.
Right. And I think some of that too is that, do you ever wonder, like a lot of times when we go to these conferences, that you'll find that some conferences can be exceptional. They provide, great, valuable information, and then you feel like when you do walk out the room, you can definitely, take on the world, right? Then I think there are some conferences that I feel that you can walk into and it's not information. It's a kind of a boasting type, conference where they're telling you all these great things, but then you walk out, you have nothing. You may feel good, but then when you go home a few hours later, or that, like you said, that Monday, and you're like, okay, well, what did I actually learn? so I can move my business forward or write that book or whatever it is that they're trying to accomplish. And I think that sometimes that might be part of the problem, that why people may procrastinate. What has been some of your experiences on that?
Well, I think you have to, when you go into a conference, it helps. And I coach people to begin with the end in mind when they go to these conferences. So beforehand, I'll ask them, what do you expect? What are three things, what three ideal outcomes you're looking to get away from this conference? What are you looking to take away? So they go in looking, okay, I want to meet someone that can help me with storytelling. I want to meet someone that can help me with cover design. I want to whatever type of conference it is. So so as you're at the conference and your question isn't getting answered, now you can find somebody in the hallway. You can, if you're in a breakout session, you can ask that question. And it increases the likelihood that you're going to get something out of it and you're going to take action. Because sometimes it's so much information when you go to these conferences that it's overwhelming.
Exactly.
And if you don't have a plan, everything sounds like a good idea and you end up not accomplishing anything.
Exactly. And that's the key word, a plan. It's a plan. But at least it moves you forward to getting out of that procrastination stage. So, and that's the most important part. But let me just say, for those who are just tuning in, or if you've missed out on some great information to begin. But we are live here on the Author's Corner. I am author Kimberly McLemore, and I have my first special guest, author Eric M. Twiggs, who is the author of The Discipline of Now, who has 12 practical principles to overcome procrastination. We're going to talk some more here about the book now. I really want to dive into some more of the book. So let's talk. You can pick out or tell me what other principle that you want to share with us and the listeners so that we can, have a good conversation about it.
Yeah. So in the book, you mentioned I have I've done over 28,000 coaching sessions. And so what I've done is I've created a model based off all of those coaching sessions and all my interactions with executives and entrepreneurs to help to overcome procrastination. It's called the Procrastination Prevention Pyramid, right? So it's got different levels. It's got 5 different levels. I just want to talk about the first level briefly. Okay. Because this is so important. If you want to overcome procrastination, is you really have to check your attitude, your mindset, how you think. And the challenge is that the studies show that 70% of our self-talk and how we think, like 7 out of 10 thoughts tend to be negative, right? So we just have, the average person just has all these negative thoughts. I can't do this. This isn't going to work. Oh, here we go again. Oh, I slipped up on my diet. Oh, blah, 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 blah. So we have to break. We have to break that negative habit. And I found the best way to break a bad habit is to replace it with a good habit. And the good habit is gratitude, and really focusing on the wins, right? Focus like if I ask the average person, tell me everything that went wrong this week, we can talk for hours. Right. But if I say, hey, if I say, hey, tell me about your wins, interesting. Because we're so focused on problems and so focused on the negative, but we need to change that habit and start really thinking about the same amount of effort and focus we put on the negative, we need to put on the positives and the things we're grateful for. And I've got my health, and I might be sequestered and quarantined because of this coronavirus, but I have my health. I can work from home. I've got everything I need to succeed, and this is going to end at some point. Because the bottom line is this: it is physically impossible to say something positive and think something negative at the exact same time. So it literally, right? So if you're speaking the positives, it changes the way you think, and it'll make it less likely that you procrastinate.
Exactly. And that's what I was super thinking when you were talking about how much negative we can come up with. And it does. It leads you right back to the same beginning, which is nothing, right? You're still
Exactly.
procrastinating. But you're the one thing that you said is very important is that when we think positively and we think about all the good things that we have in life, we can literally go through the rest of the day in that moment or wherever we're at during that time frame. And it's beautiful. We feel like, we're free, everything's exciting. And then it can usually take one thing to trigger you to go back the other way. But like you said, if people would learn to be more thankful and realize that where they're at or what they're doing, there's a purpose and a reason behind what they're doing. And even in the circumstances we have today, even though you may be home every day, there's so many things you can get accomplished. And it's funny how we sit back and we'll complain at work and say, oh, I just want to get home and I'm tired of being here. And if I could work from home, things would be so much simpler. And guess what? So guess what? We're in that situation now. And I've heard more people whine about the fact that, oh, we can't go anywhere. We can't do this. And, it's this and that. And like I said, you're alive. You still have something worth living for and to accomplish. And even if that means sitting at home and writing that book, or putting together that business plan, taking the opportunity to utilize your time wisely and start planning out these practical things that you could be doing and learning from some of the principles that Mr. Twiggs is talking about tonight, that will be even more positive for you. So what else do you have in the book that you may want to share another nugget with us this evening?
So the other thing that causes people to procrastinate is fear.
Yes.
Fear really keeps people from moving forward. And a lot of times what happens is, let's say you've got a presentation that's coming up and you start feeling afraid or fearful. So to relieve the feeling of anxiety, we put it off. We check social media. We start straightening our desk. We start checking text messages. We're looking to relieve that anxiety. But the problem is, as you procrastinate, as the deadline gets closer, that creates more anxiety. Mm-hmm. So it can become a vicious circle. And so the key is just be aware of what's triggering you to procrastinate. And oftentimes it's fear. And like, for example, if it's fear of failure, the key is you have to factor failure into your success plan. Mm-hmm. That's the key. You have to understand that failure is a part of the process.
Right.
So if you have a setback, we can't just think that that's the end. I mean, look at New Year's resolutions. It's March, and many of the people that are listening to us right now have already broken all their New Year's resolutions.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because you say, okay, I'm going to work out. I'm going to work out 3 nights a week. And then you miss a night, and you're thinking, oh, here we go again.
Right.
I'm such a procrastinator. I always procrastinate. But you have to take into account that you're going to fail. Mm-hmm. But the key is getting back up and continuing to move forward. So really, and the whole theme of the book is really centered around becoming aware. Mm-hmm. So if you're feeling fearful, become aware that that's an issue for you and make sure you factor failure into the success plan.
Wow. Well, and that's definitely important because, and really failure really isn't failure. It's a part of just learning. And like you said, if you can go back and review what you've learned and what you missed out, that will definitely help you be able to move forward. So failure is, like I said, it's a part of it. And it's when you stop is when it becomes true failure, because then you've given up on yourself versus trying to move forward and saying, hey, this is exactly what I need to be doing, and I'm going to continue to move forward because we're all going to get knocked down. That's just a part of life. So, Mr. Twiggs, this has been an amazing portion of my show, and I love the book. And like I said, we've had the opportunity to be on the same platforms together, and I've been interviewed with you. But the one thing I wanted to definitely ask you is that, I'm sure like you have many people who definitely ask you every day, what can they do differently? What other advice would you give them?
Well, I would also think about setting yourself up with like action triggers. So, for example, instead of saying, "Okay, I'm going to work on my presentation this week," but if you just say that, mm-hmm. you're going to it'll be Friday at 5:00 and you haven't worked on the presentation. But if you say, I'm going to work. Make an appointment with yourself. I'm going to work on my presentation on Tuesday at 1:00, and schedule it. And set a reminder for yourself.
Right.
You'll be more likely to start if you got an appointment with yourself than you just made.
All right, we just lost Mr. Twiggs, so we're going to have him call back in here in a second. Hello?
Hello?
All right, Dr. Denise, we're just going to put you on hold here for a second. We lost our other guest here, so we'll give you a call back in just a few minutes so we can finish out that, and we're going to go to a commercial break. So just give me about 5 more minutes, please.
So you're going to call me? I'm going to call you.
Yes, call me back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we're having some technical difficulties over here. We just got cut off, so we're going to try to get Mr. Twiggs back on here before we go to our commercial break.
Hello?
Hey, all right then. Sorry about that. We got cut off, and I'm like, we're not finished with this yet, so I'm sorry about the disruption. So go ahead and finish what you were talking about, sir.
Okay, yeah. So I was talking about setting up an appointment with yourself. And I've found a lot of the clients I've worked with, just by taking that step, instead of saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that this week, saying, okay, on Tuesday at 1:00, I'm going to set this appointment with myself to start on, to write the first part of this presentation. You're more likely to do it when you set that appointment with yourself and have that reminder.
Exactly. So that is definitely good advice, because that's the key. That's what we don't do. Sometimes we're doing so much that we do forget, but at the same token, if you looked at setting that appointment with yourself the same way you would set any other appointment, that will definitely help you move forward. And so that's excellent advice. And again, I apologize for the disruption. I'm having some definitely technical difficulties on this end this evening, so I apologize for that. But before you go, because we are definitely coming up to the end, so we can go into a commercial break, so we can bring on our next guest, because she is definitely ready to roar and come on board. But please tell the listeners where they can purchase your book and how they can get a hold of you if they need to set up any appointments with you.
Yeah, so you can visit my website. It's www.thedisciplineofnow.com. That'll give you direct access to the book. It's in paperback, it's an ebook, and it's in audio format. So you can go to that website, thedisciplineofnow.com, and that's how you can access the book. If you want to access me and schedule a coaching session or schedule a discovery session, you can email me at eric@ericmtwiggs.com. And I have a quick special offer, Kimberly, just for your listeners tonight. They can they can go to their smartphone, text the number 474747, and type in Twiggs time, TWIGGS time, TIME. And once they do that, they will instantly receive a quick video of me explaining 2 powerful tips to beat procrastination.
All right. Well, you guys heard it live. We had Mr. Twiggs talk about the fact that if you dial 474747 Twiggs time, you will get a special opportunity. So make sure you do that. Get on your phones. Y'all been on them all day. So go ahead and let's support this. So we definitely appreciate you coming on, Mr. Twiggs. Again, he's the author of The Discipline of Now, the 12 Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination. And again, I do apologize for all the interruption here with all these technical difficulties I'm having this evening, but I appreciate you coming on tonight to the show. So you definitely have a good evening. And again, thank you so much, sir.
Hey, thank you again for having me, Kimberly.
You're welcome. All right, you guys. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be bringing on the next guest in a few minutes. So you guys just hold tight, and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Welcome back to the Author's Corner with your host, author Kimberly McLemore.
You've reached Denise of More Communication.
All right. Welcome back, listeners, to the Author's Corner. I am your host, author Kimberly McLemore, and I'm going to introduce you to my next special guest author. I have with me Dr. Denise Moore Revel, author of Own Your Amazing, Discover Your Power to Create an Amazing Life You Love. Dr. Denise Moore is an award-nominated and #1 best-selling author, speaker, and personal development coach. For over 25 years, Denise has literally helped people find their voices. As a speech-language pathologist therapist, she has worked with people of all ages with various speech difficulties. Her job has been helping her clients discover their voice and to live their worth out loud. Dr. Denise founded the Own Your Amazing movement as an extension of the message of finding your own voice and living your worth out loud. Through coaching, mentoring, and workshops, Dr. Denise empowers women to find their unique voice, live their worth out loud, and create amazing lives they love. So, without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform and my next special guest, Dr. Denise. How are you?
Fantastic. Amazing.
Exactly, you are. And thank you for being so patient with me this evening. This has been so crazy with the phone system. I'm like, I'm having all types of technical difficulties tonight. So.
It happens. It happens.
Yes, it does. And this happens when you go live, everybody, okay? You never know what you're going to get. So I again apologize for this craziness, but I am so happy to have you on my show this evening. Because it definitely is good to hear your voice. I haven't seen you in a while. So.
I know. And thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. Oh, so we're going to dive in it. So before we get into the actual full interview, just tell the listeners a little bit more about who Dr. Denise Revel Moore is. More Revel.
Just
get it
Dr.
right here.
Denise.
Right,
I go by
Denise.
Dr. Denise. Just keep it simple, right?
Exactly. I'm like, I got to get this name right because if you say
It's
it
okay.
fast enough,
It's
you're going to skip
okay.
it.
That's why I go by Dr. Denise, just to keep it simple. We don't have to worry about all the last names.
Well, I appreciate that.
Okay. But like you said in my bio, just, I have been a speech-language pathologist over 25 years. I have a private practice. But mainly, I've always just have wanted to help people, women in particular, about really finding their own voice and living their worth out loud, because that had been my struggle, Mm-hmm. By all accounts, I looked very successful, but I just had so many internal struggles about my sense of self, my sense of self-worth, my self-esteem, that I just needed to deal with, and so fortunate for me, I've had a great support system all of my life in terms of my family, my community, but it still wasn't enough. I still needed to figure out who I was for myself. And so that's what my journey has really been about. It's like really discovering who am I for me, mm-hmm. not for what everyone else says I should be, but who am I for Denise? And so that's my message. That's my movement. And I just really want people to discover who they are for themselves.
And you know what? And that seems to be the $1 million question that we all have. Day after day, year after year, we think about it. New Year comes around and it's like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And it's funny because we were just talking about that. It's not about procrastination at this point. It's about truly understanding and knowing who you are. And as women, I think we always have a tendency to have a way of nurturing other people, but not being able to nurture ourselves, right?
Yeah, because we were really never taught to do that. We were always taught to put everyone else before ourselves, right?
Right.
We are typically the last person on our to-do list, even if we make it on the to-do list.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
Usually, if we make it on the to-do list, we're the last person on our own to-do list. We've been taught to self-sacrifice, which I'm not saying not to do that in some circumstances, but we are taught to put other people before our own needs and ourselves. And then we wonder why we are bitter and depleted and unhappy and unfulfilled because we haven't taken the time to really attend to our own needs first.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we feel guilty when we do, because.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think a big part of it is that people will actually make you feel guilty, and not that they know that they're always doing it, but you say, oh, I just want some me time or I'm just going to do this. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Why do you need time? And I think it's even going to be funnier now that we're all staying at home for a majority of us, where we're teleworking. And, we were talking about how, people are already complaining and that is going to be a telltale sign of, you're with your family 24/7 and then you're saying, I need some time to breathe. And a lot of people are trying to figure that out.
Absolutely. Now, more so than ever, is self-care and self-awareness so important.
Absolutely, because
these relationships are going to be put to the test.
Absolutely. In more than one way, because it's like, you run through your head thinking about all the different things people are going to be doing over and over and over because they can't get out, right? So it's just going to it's going to be crazy. But let's talk about the business a little bit more now. We talked a little bit earlier and you were talking about how you actually work a lot with the youth. So when you're talking about speech, language, and pathology as a therapist, what does that really mean?
Well, I help primarily children, but I do work with some adults from time to time. But I primarily work with children who may have issues with communicating, whether it's articulation, meaning they can't say their sounds correctly, or maybe they have an issue with stuttering, or it may be an issue they have an issue with language, meaning they can't find the right words to say to express themselves, or they can't understand when people are talking to them. So I help with making sure their words come out clearly, but also helping them to understand words and be able to express themselves to other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's important because, people will be I'm sure that these kids are dealing with, people being bullying all the time, because they talk differently and they may not understand why they're doing that. And as you say, you're helping them with that. So even as an adult, that makes it even worse. But when you're a child, there's people want to feel like they're they want to fit in, right? So
Absolutely.
I'm sure you see that so much every day. And you were even saying, we were talking earlier, that you've definitely been still busy. Business is still going good, and that's awesome, because I'm sure that these parents feel that they don't want their children, who are going through that process, they don't need to miss these appointments, because it's a truly important piece for them to be able to get through on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. And yes, a lot of children, unfortunately, get bullied because of their communication skills. And these kids grow up to be adults, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of the things I always try to instill in all of my clients is that regardless of what you sound like, or, especially if it's someone who stutters, right, and they can't get their words out, I was like, regardless of what you say, how you say, or what you say, your voice matters. Mm-hmm. Your voice is important. What you have to say matters. And so that's the crux of my message with anyone. Regardless how it sounds, if you say your R's incorrectly, I don't care what you have to say. It matters. And I'm going to take the time to listen to what you have to say. At the end of the day, most people, everybody wants to know that they matter, that they are important, they are significant, to this world. Yes. Mm-hmm. And so I have I call it a pleasure. I have the pleasure to really work with young children so that they can grow up to have a good sense of self,
right,
regardless of what they may sound like. And so I would say for these kids, it may be articulation. For someone else, it may be their weight. For someone else, it may be, they don't feel skinny enough, smart enough, dark enough, light, whatever it is. At some level, we all feel inadequate.
Right. Absolutely.
And so my message is that no matter who you are, what kind of inadequacies or imperfections you have, you matter, and that you are still amazing.
There you go. Oh, there you go. Exactly.
Regardless.
Exactly. And that's what people need to hear. We live in such a society that tells you have to be this way or that way. And even though we're constantly fighting it every day, and you're seeing, things get better, but anytime I still have to look on TV and you're having all of these commercials, having to remind women that it's okay to be, who you are and how you look, it tells me in the back of my mind that we're still not there.
We're still not there.
Right. And it's like, why? What is it going to take for people to realize that it's okay to be your individual yourself, and be accepted for being yourself? I cannot, I beat myself up around that in my head all the time, because I cannot understand why we constantly have to have these same conversations over and over and over about people just allowing people to be who they are.
Absolutely. And the other thing I always tell, and again, I think I have a pleasure and the privilege of working with young children. We come out believing that we're okay. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, I'll ask the parents whether or not the child is aware that they even have a speech impediment, right?
Right.
And so a lot of times the parents like, no. I'm like, good. Good, perfect. Because I don't want them to feel self-conscious. I don't want them to feel bad, because they sound fine. I'm like, great, good. I want them to still think that they're okay. It's not until someone else tells them, oh, you sound funny, or you look funny, or you this, you're that we start to feel bad about who we are. But we don't come out of the womb having low self-esteem.
Thank you. And that's with everything in life. That is with everything in life. We don't know what we look like. We don't, like I said, don't know how we sound, anything. And it's a taught thing. And that's where the problem comes in. And that's the sad part about it, is that people are young kids are being taught this at a young age. And then, as you said, we grow into adulthood, and they take that with them. And so every day you're being reminded about what you think you know or what you've heard because of somebody else's thought process, not because of your own.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important to get back to self-discovery. Mm-hmm. Discover who you are for yourself, because of so many negative messages that we hear from family, from community, from society, from at school, at work, all of these things. And we don't have something to counterbalance that, to let us know, wait a minute, that's not the truth. The truth of the matter is, you're okay. I'm okay. Exactly. We're fine. And if we don't have something to counterbalance that, we see the result of that is a lot of children, and adults, whomever, committing suicide and doing all these other things, trying to fit in because they don't believe that who they are is enough. And so the message has to go out. They're like, oh, you're amazing. You are amazing. You know, live authentically. Be who you are. If those messages aren't going out and to counterbalance all the other negative messages, we will continue to have people who are struggling with being who they are.
That's right. And I think that's always going to be a struggle, because depending on who they're being raised by, it's that vicious cycle, right? That you know, one generation is going to say it, another generation is going to do it, and another generation is going to do it until somebody breaks the mold, right? And I think that's where the problem. I mean, obviously, you know, for some people, they're thinking in their mind, oh, well, this is good for, you know, doctors or people who can help them. But at the same token, it's like, you know, like I said, why are we constantly having the same conversation over when we already know what the answer really is? You know, the answer is just allowing people to be who they are and learning to accept them without having to feel like you have to sit down and feel that you're so different that you have to sit down and talk to somebody to make them realize that so they can help you realize you're not different, right? I mean,
right.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it, but you know, we're definitely thankful for Dr. Denise, because you're hitting it at a young age, and I think that's the most important part, that people do realize that, you know, you're not doing your child any favors if you're telling them that that they're not this or they're not that, and they should be saying it this way or doing it that way. And, you know, I think, and I'm wondering that when you're having these conversations, are the parents involved in, you know, with the kids? Do you give them like exercises and so forth to help them continue to move forward with what you've worked with them on?
Oh, absolutely. And surprisingly, I tell a lot of people, I work more with the parents initially than I do with the child.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of parents come feeling guilty.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of parents come feeling that somehow, some way, they are less than a parent because their child may have this disability, you know?
Right.
So I have to work a lot with the parents initially. The number of parents who come into my office and cry because they just feel so bad, because it's like, did I do something wrong, or I'm not a good parent, I should have known, all of those things. So I have to really work with them to get them in a good place, get them in a place of feeling empowered. You know, I always tell them, at least you're here now. At least you're helping get your child the help he or she needs now.
Mm-hmm.
And here's how you can help them at home. And so I have to get them engaged. I have to get them, you know, buying into the process. If not, it's going to be hard for the child, because they need their parent support. But I tell you, I have to spend a lot of time initially with the parents, reassuring them, because the kids are okay. Again, they don't really know.
Right. They don't know they have a problem until somebody points out that they do have a problem, right? Or they think they have a problem, right?
And so,
wow.
Say again?
No, I just said, you know, like you were saying, that they don't even know until somebody points it out to them.
Right. And so it's the parents who, like I said, initially I have to really spend time with to comfort, to encourage. I mean, I just had to do that this past week with a new client. You know, the mom was in tears.
Wow.
And he was like, you know, I was like, Mom, you're here now. We're getting the process started now. I said, I can't have you to beat yourself up about this. I need you to feel good, the fact that you are advocating for your daughter. You are making sure she's getting what she needs now. We can't worry about what was in the past. All we can do is like, what's now and how can we move forward? So
exactly.
It's tough.
I bet it is, because, you know, and the bigger part, the reason why it's really so tough is because these parents expect we all want our children to be perfect, right? And I think that's where all the guilt starts. It says, oh my gosh, my baby's not perfect. The reality is your baby is perfect because your baby's here. So you know, that's perfect enough. So
exactly.
That's what's important. But I'm just going to say, for those who are just tuning in, y'all have missed a crazy night. I mean, beyond the technical difficulties, we have had a phenomenal. I've had two amazing guests on tonight. And right now, like I said, we're live here on the Author's Corner. And for those who don't remember who I am, I'm author Kimberly McLemore. I've got Dr. Denise Revel, who is the author of Own You're Amazing, Discover Your Power to Create an Amazing Life You Love. So now I want to dig into this book, because I'm assuming that when you decided to start your movement, it was based off of this book. Yes, no,
Well,
maybe?
No.
Really? Okay. So was it after the fact? Because it's amazing how you have the Own Your Own Amazing movement. So
Right.
Talk about that extension and talk about the book. So, I mean, it just, because I love the title, but then the movement I think is even more interesting as well.
So the movement came before the book. I had no intentions of writing a book, first of all. Let me say that.
Okay.
And it goes back to, again, with how as a child we struggle with things that adults tell us, right? Mm-hmm. So I always did well in school, but writing was not my thing. I struggled with that. Mm-hmm. Everybody has something. I was a math whiz. But when it came to writing, it took me a little bit more time to do that, right? So I never had any intention of writing a book. And so my high school English teacher told me one day that I was one of the worst writers he had ever had. Oh. I'm like, really?
Like, it looks perfectly good to me.
Wow. Okay. And so that got into my head. It got that got to me. Mm-hmm. And it caused me to be very self-conscious about my writing. And so I went on to college, of course, and, but still writing papers and all these I struggled. I had to, really take a lot of time to do that because I had my English teacher in the back of my mind, mm-hmm. making that comment to me. And so getting back to the book, I had no intention of writing the book. So the movement started about 4 years ago because, again, I was struggling with, who am I? I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. What's going on in my life? I don't know what's going on. So I had attended a weekend retreat, and it was my turn to be in the front of the room with all the participants. And I got up there and just started crying and so the facilitator what's wrong? I was like, I don't know. What's wrong with me? My life, right?
Right.
And so one of the ladies who was attending the workshop, the retreat that weekend, she said to me, she was like, I know what's wrong with you. And I'm thinking and in my head, I'm like, we just met. You don't really know me. What are you mm-hmm. talking about? You know what's wrong with me, right? So that's going through my head. And I said, oh, okay. She was like, you're smart, you're brilliant, you're talented. She said, but you don't own it. She said, you need to own your amazing. I burst into tears again. I started crying again. I was like, that's it.
It took all this for me to figure that out.
I was like, yeah. She was like, stop playing small. Mm-hmm. Stop sitting on your gifts. Mm-hmm. And so that's how the movement started. And so, I put it out there, started doing workshops, started just talking to people about just owning your amazing. And then someone approached me and was like, have you thought about writing a book? And I was like, I can't write a book. I'm a terrible writer. My English teacher told me that,
Right.
And so she was like, no, I can support you with that. So that's how the book came to be. I had really no intentions of ever writing a book, but I'm so glad that I did because it helped me to, talk about my journey mm-hmm. of owning my amazing. So I'm thankful I did it, but no, I had no intentions of ever writing a book. I'm like, not me. I didn't see myself as an author. Mm-hmm. I thought an author was someone else, not me. So again, a lot of times when we don't know who we are, we don't know the gifts and things that we have to offer the world, we'll sit on them because we don't see the value in it. But other people, thank God other people saw that in me and helped to support me in my journey.
Right. But, it's funny because I think a lot of times, when we have something that triggers us, and that was a trigger point for you. You already had it in you, but that trigger just made you, like you said, you just fell out. You just kept crying because you know that you're an amazing person. But it's one thing to sometimes know it and to not want to reveal it versus somebody helping you reveal it. And that's what she did. You had it in you because, like I said, you're beyond smart and intelligent. And, to sit there and think that you can't write because somebody tells you. And normally I find when English teachers like that say things, I had that when I went through college too, it's because it's the way they write. It's not because it's the way I write. And I'm like, okay, but I've made it all these years. So why does it matter now? Right.
Right. Right.
Because they want it to be perfect. But there is no such thing as perfect. It's perfection on their end for themselves, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's perfect for you. But you obviously have overcome all of that, and having a book about owning your own amazing I think is I love the title, first of all, because like I said, we've been kind of talking about it a little bit about who we are as women and what the things that we don't do and how we don't own up to what we need. But is there anything specific in the book that you really want to share with the listeners and, maybe help that other woman who's currently right now going through this in their mind saying, you know what, there's something that's bothering me. What is it? What can I have to help me get over that hump?
I think that how would I answer this? I just think understanding, like one of the chapters in the book is divine design. I think that's probably my favorite chapter. Mm-hmm. And it just speaks to the fact that we are all uniquely and specially made. I believe by God. I believe in the Creator. I believe in an intelligent being created all of us. And so, to me, that's the foundational part of it. Even though you mentioned a minute ago, we have these things inside of us. We're smart and brilliant, all this, but we don't own it. Mm-hmm. We don't own it. We don't really embrace it. We know it, I think, intellectually, but we don't know it at a heart level. We don't embody that I am amazing. And so I think understanding just the basics of creation and who we are, and we look at how we all are different. It's no two people on the planet exactly alike.
Exactly.
It's I don't know how many, 7 trillion people on the planet, 1 billion people on the planet, and no two people are alike. That is amazing.
Right.
That is truly amazing when you stop and we hear it, but when you really think about that, there is no other Kimberly like you. You're
exactly.
It.
Yep.
And so when we own that and not dismiss who we are, when we own, our talents, our abilities, when we really own it and take ownership of it and embrace it, it really changed how you function in the world. It really changed how you see yourself. And, I did a workshop a couple of weeks, about 2 weeks ago at a women's conference. And I just talked about how when you understand that your identity, how you see yourself, not how I see you, but how you see you, that determines how you move in life. It determines what kind of decisions you're going to make. It determines what kind of reactions you will have. It's going to determine everything because, for an example, if I see myself as someone, say there's a job opening. If I see myself as good enough for that job opening, I'll go for it.
That's right.
But if I don't see myself good enough for it, everybody else can see, hey, you got it going, you should apply. But if I don't believe I'm good enough for it, I won't apply.
That's right.
So identity, who you see yourself as, is so important. So if we just begin at the foundation of that, you are unique. There is nobody like you. You are special. You are brilliant. You are beautiful. You all these amazing things. I think that would help that person. To me, I believe that's the starting point. Just really, really understanding who you are, the basic identity of that you are a unique and special individual, period.
There you go. I like that, period. And that's the key. And I agree with you. Yeah. And I think the other thing, too, is that we struggle as we continue to grow and we get older and we get a little wiser, that the other things that we do change. And it's okay, but it's because our uniqueness allows us to be who we are. And as we continue to take that and run with it and realize that it's okay to change and it's okay to grow, but it doesn't change the fact that you're not perfect in who you are and unique in who you are. You are still, like I said, Dr. Denise, I'm still Kimberly McLemore. I'm still that same person. I'm who I am, but it's learning about who I am. And it's a struggle. I think every day I find myself sometimes struggling about, okay, how if I do it this direction or that? And it's not because I can't do it, but I think sometimes we bring the fear in. We bring these little divisive things that we talk about, within ourselves to try to understand, do we fit? Like I said, if it's a job, you got the skills, but if you don't believe in yourself, then why, if you do apply for it and somebody interviews you, they're not going to believe you anyway.
Right. Exactly.
So, so it's all those little things that we tell ourselves. And then, of course, we think about, what are they going to say? And if is it the way I look, or if is it my name, it's all these crazy things that we have been taught A lot of it is taught. And then, of course, a lot of it is self-sabotage. We sabotage ourselves and what we think or believe in. Like I said, it's people like you, Dr. Denise, that definitely bring us to the forefront and making us understand that it's okay. Be who you are, learn who you are, and take that power to the next level and realize you are amazing.
Exactly. And like you were saying, changing and evolving. Anything that's alive grows and evolves. So if I'm alive, then I should be changing. I should be evolving. I believe I am a better version of Denise today than I was years ago because I'm committed to growing and evolving and becoming wiser and learning life lessons, learning from my mistakes. So I'm still the same person at my core, but I believe I'm a better version of me.
Right? But you should, because if you don't, you're standing still, right? That means you've learned nothing. You're doing nothing in your life. So, and it's the same topic I always have with people. Are you existing or are you living? There is a difference, and but you don't know that difference until you actually know who you are.
Yes.
So you definitely hit the nail on the head there. I mean, this is a great conversation, and with the way things are today, people, like I said, we were talking earlier that everybody has to spend more time with themselves and their families, and now is a time to sit down and take those few minutes out of the day and really have a journey with yourself. Really truly find out who you are.
Absolutely. Everyone, definitely going through whatever they're experiencing with this whole pandemic. But I really do see it as a great opportunity, a great opportunity to practice self-care, self-discovery, self-awareness. People are spending more time at home, but, it really is a great opportunity to stop and to figure out, like, who am I? What do I really want from my life? Here's one of the statistics I talk about all the time is that over 80% of people don't even like their jobs.
Yep.
Don't even like it. So now that you're kind of home, you can take time to evaluate, like, is that what I really want to go back to doing? When it's time, when life gets back to normal, you can say, well, maybe I don't want to go back to that job. Maybe this is a time for me to start my business. Maybe this is a time for me to go back to school. So now it's a great time because a lot of people are slowing down and they're home, and it's a great time to be reflective, say, well, what do I really want my life to look like when it's, quote unquote, back to normal? So I really do hope people take advantage of this opportunity to do a lot of self-reflection and a lot of self-discovery and say, well, what is next for me? Now could be a great time to write that book,
That's right.
Because you have the time,
Exactly. Yeah, you have more than enough time to accomplish anything you truly want to accomplish. Because, week after week, we really don't know how long this is going to last. They're telling us, oh, we're going to, go back at the end of April, whatever. They don't know. We may do something permanent for a while. So we don't know. So now is definitely a time to, like you said, reflect on who you are, get some things accomplished that you wanted to get done. Think about what your next move is going to be. And it's funny because, we talked about doing this at the end of the year and we got a new year, right? And nobody in a million years could have predicted that our year would start out like this. We're only 3 months into it. You're literally having to really do exactly what you say you were going to do at the end of last year to start your new 2020. And 2020, as we can say right now, has been a hell of a year. So far. And it's like, wow, like I tell people, if you haven't trusted that journey that you're on, now is the time. Now is the time to stick to your guns and do what you say you were going to do. There is no excuses to say, oh, I just don't have time. Because we have more time on our hands than we could have possibly imagined.
Exactly.
It's called motivate yourself. Quit complaining, start living that amazing life that you can love. And if you need to figure out how to do that, Dr. Denise, could you tell everybody how they can find you and where they can get this amazing book and if they can reach out to you?
Oh, absolutely. The first place I want them to go is to my website. I want them to go to ownyouramazingnoww.com. ownyouramazingnnow.com. Again, ownyouramazingnnow.com. And when you go to the site, there's a tab at top that says free excerpt of the book. And so I want you to go there, sign up to get a free excerpt from the book to read. I think it's part of the introduction, but just to read a little bit about this part of the book, to kind of wet your whistle a little bit. But I really do hope people purchase the book because after most of the chapters, there's some exercises, there's some things that they can do to kind of implement the principles that I talk about in the book. So it's not just a book you read, it's a book that you really need to engage in. It's going to have you answer some questions. So it really helps with that whole self-discovery piece. So again, they can go to the website, ownyouramazingnnow.com, and click on the tab at the top that says free excerpt of the book. Download the excerpt of the book, and if you want to purchase, there's links to purchase it as well. In terms of social media, you can follow me on Facebook at Dr. Denise, Own Your Amazing, and then also Instagram, I'm Dr. Denise Moore.
All right. Well, you guys have heard it. This has been a phenomenal conversation. And again, like I said, I thank you for coming on the show, and I appreciate again your patience with me with trying to get you on. So, but I hope I made up for it.
You did. This is so wonderful, Kimberly. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I really enjoyed it.
It is my pleasure. And again, I thank you for coming on tonight and spending your time with me and with my listeners and for everyone else. Again, this was Dr. Denise Moore Revel, the author of Own Your Amazing. Discover your power to create an amazing life you love. You heard her great golden nuggets that she's shared with you guys tonight. There should be no excuses, none whatsoever. We've had two amazing authors on here tonight. One was Mr. Eric Twiggs, who talks about procrastinating. So if you missed that portion, I'm telling you can go back. Obviously, if you go back and re-listen to everything, you're going to hear all the craziness in between. But we still had some great conversations with Mr. Twiggs. He is the author of The Discipline of Now, the 12 Practical Principles to Overcome Procrastination. And again, like I said, we had Dr. Denise here, and I just have had a wonderful time this evening. I hope you all have enjoyed it. If you are interested in any way and wanting to come on the show, The Author's Corner, I will tell you, though, 2020 is booked for the year. So you need to think about 2021, believe it or not. If you're interested as a guest on my show, you want to send a short bio, a book cover, and a professional picture to KimberlyMMacklemore@gmail.com. My last name is McLemore@gmail.com. And you can also follow me on all the social media platforms at Kimberly M. Macklemore on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And of course, I have my other YouTube channel, which is the Women's Small Business Initiative, which these shows also will show up on. And as well, the Author's Corner is now on iHeartRadio, as you know. And we're on many other platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, Google Podcasts, Deezer Podcasts, and Podcast Addict, Spreaker, and YouTube, and many other places. And also stop by and check out my new website at www.the-authorscorner.net. Send me a message. Look at all the amazing services that I have to offer. And like I said, I hope to see you and hear from you soon, and join us next month for another amazing show. But until then, you also have a good evening and good night.
Good night, everyone, and thank you for tuning in tonight. We'll be back next month on Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time with two more amazing guests. Follow us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at author Kimberly Macklemore. Music by Audionautics.com.